What is it? Today's Thursday?
Yes.
Yes. So happy Friday Eve then. Yeah. Today we're gonna briefly review some of the antecedent strategies we covered last week. So the non-contingent reinforcement, the demand fading. We're also gonna, I think, briefly mention the high Q sequence response and see how all of that ties into a crisis intervention procedure. And it's something that I know you guys have already discussed somewhat at length with Jan when it comes to the PROACT material, but we're going to also tackle it through the behavior intervention standpoint. And plus, it's on the RBT task list, so we have to talk about it. Okay. I got it right this time, didn't I? 16? We're on 16? Okay. Yeah, so we're discussing implementing crisis and emergency procedures. But first, let's go over some of these questions. Okay, a client often engages in vocal disruption to get staff's attention. To address this proactively, you provide the client with 2 minutes of one-to-one social interaction for every 15 minutes, regardless of the behavior. What strategy is this? Is this demand fading, NCR, FCT, or high P?
B.
Okay, I'm hearing B. Non-contingent reinforcement. Everybody else under agreement? Does that sound about right?
That's what I was going to say.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. Yes, it is NCR. The key phrase here is regardless of the behavior. The reinforcement is delivered on the schedule. So every 15 minutes, they spend with the client for 2 minutes, regardless of what they're doing. You guys remember that video where she was delivering reinforcement, and even those instances where he would throw the items and start flicking things off the desk, reinforcement was still provided? It's the exact same idea. Okay, clients find shredding paper very aversive and unpleasant, and often swipes the bin. You begin by asking the client to shred just one piece of paper for a reward, then slowly increase it to 3, and then to 5 pieces over the course of several days. What is this an example of?
A.
Okay, Julie saying A. Everybody else agree? A. Yes, demand fading. So you don't want to start off with 5 or 10. You want to start off small and then kind of work your way up. Increase the demand as cooperation increases. Very good. Before asking a client to transition to a non-preferred exercise, a staff asks them to give me 5 and then touch your head and tell me your favorite color. These are all things the client already does and enjoys doing. So what is this antecedent strategy?
D.
Hearing D. High P request? Yes, it is. Awesome, guys. Yeah. High P request sequence. 2 to 5, easy, low effort request, followed by the difficult or low probability request. Awesome. You guys are doing great. You guys need to review number 2. Number 2 was demand fading. So this one was A. And now question 4. You notice a client is much more likely to grab other snacks when they haven't had breakfast. You then ensure they have a very large, filling breakfast upon arriving to the day program to reduce the value of stolen food. What is this?
B.
Okay. I heard B.
B.
Yes. Manipulating MOs. Yeah, so them already having the food makes the food available at the program an abolishing operation. So it lowers the value of the food. Awesome. Okay, yeah, those are our antecedent strategies that we're looking at. Yeah, it seems the guys got a good grasp on this. I'm very happy to see that. Let's get into the crisis intervention stuff. Okay, first of all, what we got to ask is, what is a crisis? And I think we've all may have experienced this from time to time. It's a situation where at any point the individual in question can pose a danger to themselves and others. So some of the common examples, particularly that of severe problem behavior, include aggression, property destruction, SIB, elopement, particularly in unsafe areas such as parking lots. All of those, I would say, do pose a major threat to the individual's well-being and safety. Let's take a look at what this might look like in the case of self-injurious behavior.
Hello. Daniela, here with Ali, and for this situation, we're going to do crisis management. So, client is going to engage in SID, and my purpose is to distract him from that. Okay. Hey, let's not do that, okay? Let's play with these. So, play with these. No, so that's not good, okay? You can hurt yourself. Let's play here. Play here. No, so we don't use that for that, okay? No, you can hurt yourself. Play over here. Why don't we build this together? Where do you want to put this one? Okay, good job. Well done. Playing with these, okay? They're toys. Good job. So for this one, I focused the client's attention on a different task. Client was at first really focused on using any of the objects pretty much to hit himself and ahead of it. So I redirected that by focusing him on using the toys in a productive way, like building something with agenda pieces or doing something that wasn't injuring himself.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so that is just a brief example of what a preventive intervention may look like for something that could cross into a crisis situation. And as we discussed previously, when somebody has reached the point where they have escalated, that is not the opportunity to teach them the appropriate response. It's not the moment to implement FCT or use a high P sequence. The most important thing in these circumstances is safety. We can go back to teaching after the crisis has passed. Yeah, so then we can look at a few antecedent management to prevent the crisis to escalating any further. Very much like the antecedent strategies that we implement prior to the problem behavior occurring, we can identify some precursors to show the signs that behavior is escalating to a more severe level. And when these occur, there are a few strategies we can implement. And some of these are very common if you look at the client's BIPs. So I think the most important one is just addressing the individual in a very calm, low, stoic tone. Because if you yourself start escalating, raising your voice, that may serve as something for them to do so as well, because you're kind of modeling that response for them. And very similar to the high P sequence, where you're trying to create cooperation, reducing demands in the moment is also another way to kind of cool down the field. Yeah, also key thing is providing individuals space. I'm sure you guys are aware that when individuals do become a little bit aggressive, if there just so happens this one client who kind of wanders in their vicinity, then all of a sudden they can become a victim of an instance of aggression. Yeah, then being able to clear out the area, and if by chance the behavior is maintained or is influenced by attention, assuring that they don't have an audience to derive so much reinforcement from. This is similar to when we were discussing some of the antecedent strategies involving telling certain more high functioning clients to teach them to not respond in a particular way to another one of their peers if they're doing something for attention. It's very similar, but in a much more serious manner. Yeah, and this is going to be in regards to personal protection. So if you notice that the individual is getting aggressive, it's a good idea to change your stance. This has kind of become my default to doing the 45 degree angle where you're kind of standing, kind of grounded into the ground. That way you can't be knocked over as easily. You have improved balance. Yeah, always stay within one arm's length from the individual. That way they can't just grab you. And yeah, including some environmental barriers such as a table or various chairs can also suit to preventing them from getting any more aggressive.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Because being here today, sometimes I notice like when I feel like I don't know if this aggression is gonna change, like that look, and I did that since I'm not in person a lot, like I don't practice all of this because I'm always on Zoom. So I was like, oh, do I stand back? Like, I was hesitant a little bit to use my arm to kind of shield me because I was like, I don't want to make the aggression worse. So I wanted to ask about that. Is it good to do that? Should one like to use like the arm if like you want to cover yourself or
yeah. Well, if you do have an individual who does go right for it, I'm thinking of someone like Justin.
Yeah, he wanted to whack me.
Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so it would be a good idea to just kind of block it. And I mean, I'm not sure how you guys are in his room, but after he does it, he kind of stops for a bit, and then it kind of becomes somewhat predictable when he tries to go for it again. I'm sure you counted out a lot of that, right?
Well, he told Vaughn he was like he wanted to hit, and then she goes no, but I still kind of was like I knew that he was like in his. I was like I know he's kind of calculating this a bit, so.
Yeah. So I think he recognizes too that you're unfamiliar to him, so you may not know exactly how to read him because I mean, at least for me, he doesn't really try that all that much, and when he does, I'm usually able to block. But the fortunate thing about Justin is, especially now, he's become a little bit easier to redirect back to something that's more appropriate, a reinforcer that might serve his needs a little bit better. So yeah, it kind of just all depends on the individual.
Okay. I just always get a little nervous that sometimes when one looks aggressive, that you're going to feed their aggression.
Yeah, and in those circumstances, the most important thing is, again, to remain calm and to appear calm. And if you need to, again, defend yourself, there's nothing wrong with holding a stance and but still maintaining that calm demeanor.
Yeah.
Most word. Yeah, great question. Yes, this is a big one. I'm sure you guys have already discussed a lot of this with Jan already, but restraint. Yeah, it absolutely has to be the last resort. This is only really considered on the table when there is a possibility of serious harm. And when during these instances, you would then follow the PROACT protocol. And something else that we have to consider too is restraint should be monitored. So then once we recognize that the individual no longer promotes themselves as a threat to themselves and others, then you can release the restraint. But the most important thing, if there's a take-home message when it comes to restraint, it is never considered for refusal or as a punishment procedure. And one of my great peer behavior analysts also has something to say on this. Unless not, I just wanted to include this.
What kind of restraints are we talking about on?
Yeah, holding them down to the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, things like that, and just locking their arms and legs so then they can't move at all.
Okay.
Now, is the behavior that they're engaging in and the possible consequences of that behavior, do they outweigh the risks that are inherent in every physical restraint? That's something to think about. Is there going to be an increased risk of injury if you use a restraint, or a decrease? The other thing that I always think about, because I've been part of many restraints, not a lot over the last year, but maybe one over the last year, which is really nice. But Brett talked about I have a family member with autism. My little sister is 24, not so little anymore, but she has autism and a whole host of problem behavior. A lot of aggression, hitting, fighting, headbutting, that type of stuff. And there were times when I was growing up where I would, restrain her. I wasn't trained. I'm 6 years older than her. So I'm thinking, this is what I have to do right now. My mom's saying, don't restrain her, don't restrain her. And I didn't understand it at the time. Because I'm just trying to keep myself safe, right? It's not fun, especially when you're in the band. So now, anytime I'm even looking ahead and planning proactively about what the course of a behavioral episode might involve, if restraint's in there, I think, if I just took this person out and plugged my sister in there, and she's the one having these problem behaviors, would I feel all right if I watched somebody else go in and restrain her? That's a tough way to think about it. It doesn't have to be your sister. It could be, your kid. Sometimes if it's your spouse, it's like, well, but so maybe not that. It's good to use a loved one in that position to really try to identify when is a restraint okay. It's not technically part of the curriculum, but it's something that's been really useful for me through my years of experience, and it's yielded good results. Again, the risk of not intervening is greater than the risk of intervening. That's pretty much the criteria that they teach in the training. Always use the least restrictive procedure. Okay? One of the holes is here, and one of them is here. They're both high up, they're away from the diaphragm. But this is less restrictive. I think everybody would agree to that. It's almost always my go-to.
Yeah, that was a useful way of framing the use of restraint. So as he was saying, using the least restrictive, and if you are going to use it, ensure that the benefits of implementing it outweigh the costs. Okay, so now taking a look at some of the practical applications of the emergency procedures. Yeah, especially for some of the clients who have more as of a severe problem behavior. We try to include the consequence procedures for when one of these high magnitude behaviors occur in the VIPs, so be sure to reference those when looking at the possibility of having to intervene on that. Yeah, it's so important. I cannot stress how important it is to remain calm, guys.
Yeah.
I know it's very difficult to be in these situations where somebody's kind of out to get you, but you need to model the appropriate response for them, and along with being able to teach it outside of the instance, just serving as that example is so key, because you can only make it worse by panicking and increasing their aroused state. Yeah, then calling for support for when these instances happen. So then you're not alone with the individual, and then the others can help guide the other clients to another area and to ensure that if there is, let's say, restraint use, that it's very minimal and it's less restrictive. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to the individual safety. That is the most important thing. Again, if there's a take-home message, is we should not panic, remain calm, and ensure the individual is safe. Yeah, this is another important consideration for once one of these things has occurred, and yeah, definitely for those who are pursuing the RBT certification, this will be something you'll probably get more involved in. But after something major occurs, so again, severe problem behavior, an instance of a crisis, it's important to document it. And I cannot tell you guys how many times I've received SIRs from other clients, and having that knowledge going into the next consultation is going to be so key to understand, okay, what led to the behavior occurring? So what were the antecedents, just like I were talking about the ABCs? What did the behavior look like? Who was involved? And ultimately, how long did it last? And what was the result out of it? All these things in tandem can help us understand the function of behavior and put in these preliminary strategies and be proactive so to ensure it doesn't happen again. Yeah, I just made a little diagram of how the process occurs. So it begins with, again, the prevention, proactive, even after antecedent strategies, implementing these, familiarizing yourself with the BIP, and then start to lower the requests and demands. And when you're addressing an individual, when those early signs are the precursors of aggression, let's say, to remain calm. And then, yeah, ensure safety, that's the red zone. Make sure everybody around the individual is safe. And as it says here, only use restraint if it's the only option. And then after the instance has occurred, that's when we would start documenting it and debriefing to analyze what we can do next time to ensure it doesn't reach that level of severity. I think yeah. Any questions before we move on to some scenarios?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, like I said, I think you guys are pretty familiar with some of these procedures, especially with the PROACT stuff. But again, just have to cover it through the lens of an RBT. Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. First question, what is the primary goal of a crisis procedure? Is it to gather data, to maintain safety, to ensure the client completes work? I'm hearing a lot of B.
B.
Maintain safety.
Yes, maintain safety. Number one, most important thing, maintain safety. Yeah, D, we can worry about doing that some other time. Okay, according to the protocol I just described, what should you do if an individual is yelling but not engaging in any dangerous physical behavior? Yes.
B.
B.
Oh wow, you guys are on it. Yes. Yes, I would say all the other three options are not going to lead you to the desired outcome. What is the RBT's responsibility during the post-crisis phase? So this is what happens after the incident. Yes, I'm hearing to document to be yes. And we have to do so objectively, which means we describe what happens before, antecedents, the behavior, and then the consequence, what happened immediately afterwards, parties involved, etc. Okay, in the event of a full crisis, why is clearing the area around involving the pier such a crucial step?
A.
Yes. We don't want them to get caught in the crossroads from aggression. And we don't want to inadvertently reinforce it with attention. Cool. Okay, now we're going to take a look at a few scenarios that we can kind of walk through. So John yells, "Hey," for attention. Staff turns her back to ignore him. Every 30 seconds said, "John, I'm ignoring you because you're yelling." But John continues to yell for 20 minutes. this is supposed to be an extinction procedure, so what is going wrong? So just remind you guys, extinction is when you withhold reinforcement for previously reinforced behavior. So you're trying to implement extinction, and it's not working. Why is that? Is it because they should just place John on timeout instead? The behavior is maintained by escape and not attention? They're not using enough force, or they're providing occasional attention?
D.
D? D as in dog? Yes. Telling him, oh, John, I'm ignoring you, is giving him attention. It would be a good idea to prime him on that rule, telling him, oh, hey, John, when you do that, I'm not going to pay attention. I already addressed you by saying that, but not as it's occurring. Because by definition, that is not extinction. Okay, let's look at our second scenario. John engages in property destruction by ripping posters to get attention. Team implements NCR, so non-contingent reinforcement, for providing 30 seconds of high-quality attention for every 10 minutes. At the end of the 9-minute mark, so right at the very end, John begins reaching for a poster and growls. The staff member quickly jumps and says, hey, John, let's talk about your favorite movie to prevent the rip. So how should the staff handle the 10-minute NCR mark if John started growling at 9 minutes and 55 seconds? So right there. Is it to put John on a physical hold, to wait 5 to 10 seconds of a quiet, appropriate response, then deliver the attention, give the attention immediately after he starts growling, or skip the 10-minute interval entirely?
B.
Should B, D, B? Yes. Yes, it's B. Just because he's right then and there, you can allow him just to get some of that space to break that contingency between the aggression and the delivery of attention. Cool. I think this will be our last scenario. So staff implementing functional communication training for a client who hits others to get access to the iPad. During group activity, the client hits a peer, then they immediately prompt the client to use their talker, so a CTEC device, to say, iPad please. The staff then hands the client the iPad for 5 minutes. Now, what will be the correct way to handle the hit if the goal was to implement functional communication training? Oh yeah, and the individual's name is Sally, but I forgot to include it in the narrative. Is it to give the iPad immediately after she stops hitting? To tell her, good job for using her words, and then give her a high five, but not the iPad? To take away the talker or the CTEC so they don't use it? Or to place the iPad on extinction and wait for her to calm down before prompting the use of the talker?
D.
D? Yes, what we described here is functional communication training. Yeah. Well, you guys are on it today. It's awesome. Yeah, that was it. But we're going to spend a little bit more time having to elaborate on some of these ideas. But yeah, you guys can kind of see how all of these different strategies, implementations kind of come together in the intervention plan, and how all of these things are related to, preventing or reducing problem behavior from occurring. Got a little bit of time on our hands. Any questions? The floor is open.
I know I have a question.
Sure.
But I always have questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it was back to, because I'm still learning a lot of this. I think it was the ignoring one. What would be like a procedure to handle that?
Which one?
Scenario one.
Yeah, it would be to place the behavior on extinction. So being able to ensure that he knows, oh, hey, no matter what I do to get attention this way, I'm not going to get it. They're going to ignore me. If he's cognate enough to know, to understand an explicit rule
Mm-hmm.
being stated that, oh, if you address us in this way, this inappropriate way, it's not going to get you attention. But at the same time, we want to teach him a functional alternative to the attention.
Right. So when do you teach that?
Oh, you would do it, I would say, simultaneously.
Okay.
Because it's part of a package treatment plan.
Okay.
So along with placing this on section, and we're going to talk about this, I think, tomorrow too, when we start talking about differential reinforcement, DR in particular. But you place one response in extinction, so you're no longer reinforcing this, but you're going to really reinforce when he tries to communicate appropriately. So whether that be saying it in an appropriate volume,
Okay.
walking up to you, tapping shoulder, any of these responses are going to be reinforced highly, whereas this is not. And then, of course, there's going to have to be some level of tolerance training. So just because you ask for attention right then and there doesn't mean that we could just drop whatever we're doing and go
get
attend.
that. Yeah.
Yes. All these things are happening in tandem.
So a lot when I was doing my program or and taking my classes, they talked a lot about like token systems.
Mhm.
Would these be instances where you could do something like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And we talked about token boards and economies in the past. I just myself am not too big on it.
I think for kids, like I don't know, like with the kids with my friend when I lived with her, they did that, and it had its use until it was not useful anymore.
Yeah. That, along with it is incredibly difficult to fade, because once somebody is used to a token board, I mean, it's almost as though you're getting used to getting a paycheck. Once you start tripping it away or trying to fade it in a way that isn't that smooth, then you're going to get a bunch of problems on your hands.
Well, I think too, like a reward system like that, it only works to a certain extent because like when the kids when they get older,
Mhm.
no one's gonna be out there giving
Exactly.
them rewards.
It does not resemble the natural environment. Yes. Oh, would you like that? We
Yeah.
perfectly put something that we've discussed too. And then plus, somebody has to pay for all of it.
Yes, and it gets expensive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that's why when we try to implement reinforcement here, it's more or less going to resemble the natural reinforcement that the individual is going to contact in their everyday life.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. Any other thoughts? Questions? Everything good, Willie? Good. Good. I'm glad to hear that. All right. Well, if that's it, yes. You guys have a good day. We'll pick it back up tomorrow. Of course.
I will be at the other program tomorrow.
Oh.
I'm only coming in once a month.